Today's video is sponsored by BetterHelp.com, and I've been with them for a long time. BetterHelp is an online platform where we found that you can effectively communicate with your therapist. Now, you begin by filling out a questionnaire, and then you'll be matched with a therapist within a couple of days. And if that match isn't ideal for you, you can certainly make an adjustment there. Now, you're going to be encouraged to journal, and also they have the availability for group therapy on a wide array of topics, and I really like that. So as the need exists, go ahead and take the necessary steps to get the help that you need. And just know that BetterHelp has a 4.5 rating on Trustpilot, so it indeed is a platform you can trust. There's a link below the video that will take you there. Hi, Team Healthy. Gus and I welcome you to another episode of Unbound. This is where we respond to comments and questions that you send in. So if you have any that you would like for me to comment on, who knows? If you put them underneath in the comment section, it may show up in another one of our episodes down the road. Today we're going to be talking about a phenomenon that I know you've seen, but you may not have actually understood what it is and how it got to be that way. But it's the phenomenon that we refer to as narcissistic collapse. Narcissists try to put up a facade. It's their phoniness, it's their false self, and they try to live into that facade, at least for a while, but they can't sustain it. And when they get to the end of their rope, things fall apart, and that's where we refer to the narcissistic collapse. And we have some comments and questions that have been sent in by you that take us straight into a discussion about that, so let's dive right in. This first person writes in and says, the main thing that confuses me is that in the beginning, he was a different person. So if they have the capacity of masking who they truly are, why don't they have the ability to keep themselves that way, or at least make changes for the better? And then this person concludes, to me, it's just evil. Okay, so you have a person who's saying, well, for a while, that narcissist that I was engaging with seemed to be a stand-up guy. Seemed to be somebody that was regular and helpful and kind and friendly and tuned in, but something happened and it all came apart. If they can cover it up for a while, why can't they go ahead and make a commitment to it? Is basically what this person is asking. Well, let's keep in mind that a long time ago, and this is such an important insight for you to understand. A long time ago, that narcissist's real self, and when I say real self, the sum total of everything that they are, was hijacked by people in front of them who let them know, well, if you want to expose your real self to me, I am going to be so down on your case. I'm going to judge you. I'm going to make you wish that you had never talked with me about who you are and what you feel, or at least that's the presumption that budding narcissist was making, that young person in their developmental years decided, I can't afford to let you know my real self. And they're terribly conflicted. Now, sometimes the elements on the inside of themselves really are pretty nasty. And you know, they've decided, well, I don't want anybody to know that about me. Other times it's kind of arbitrary. I mean, for example, if they say, well, I prefer this activity over that activity, and both of them are value neutral, sometimes, though, the system says you can do this, but you better not do that. And sometimes it's just very arbitrary. But ultimately, the young, budding narcissist decides, well, in my world, and don't we all have this, in my world, there are aspects about human nature that are acceptable, and then there are aspects about human nature that are not. Now, in the healthy world, when we look at ourselves and we think, you know, there's some things about me that frankly are not going to pass muster with the people that I know, we call that discernment, and it leads to wisdom. I can discern some things about me that needs to be managed differently, and I'm going to do so. But the narcissist thinks, it's more than discernment. It becomes a matter of cover up. It's like, I know there's some things about me, but I don't want to let it go. I don't want to let anybody know that this is going on inside of me, so I'm going to cover the whole thing up. And the concept of them actually adjusting in that healthy way that this person is saying, well, if they can fake it for a while, why don't they go ahead and embrace it? It doesn't dawn on them. It's just not on the inside because the false self is so strong and their fear of judgment is so strong. There's an old saying that I came up with a long time ago. I don't even remember where I heard it. It's one of Gus's favorite lines. The saying is, love me, love my dog. In other words, when you get me, you get what comes with me. And as I get to know you, we're going to sift it all out and see if we can go somewhere good with it. I like that. Love me, love my dog. Narcissists like, love me, love my facade. That's all I'm going to do. I'm not going to let you see what's behind the scenes. And so that's part of their experience with life. Now, another person asked, and this one starts getting more to the heart of the question. This person says, is there fear of what they will find? Is it their fear of what they will find that perpetuates their lack of insight? And I can't say strongly enough how accurate the presumption that is in this question actually is. Yes, they have a great fear of what they will find if they start going in and taking a hard look at who they are. Their fear of their real self is so strong. I have anger issues. I have lust issues. I have hate in my heart, or I have confusion, or I have uncertainty and insecurity. And in their world, it's like, you can't do that. You can't think that way. That they actually fear having to say, this is me. One of the primary things that a narcissist has great difficulty with is saying the words, I need help. Or my problems, I realize, are contributing to our relationship difficulties. I need to adjust, or I need to find a better path forward as I engage with people. I need to do better in managing my emotions and attitudes, as well as responding to you and your thoughts. They can't go into that space because they've been so exposed to blame and shame and rejection that putting themselves out in that very real and honest way, to them, it's just not an option. The notion is, when I've been exposed before, it hasn't ended well, and I'm not about to do it again. You may say that you'll be kind and you'll be graceful towards me. I don't believe it. I abandoned that thought a long time ago. Now, this fear and this necessity of holding on to their phony front is so deeply entrenched by the time they come into their adult years, it begins to just happen on a more of a subconscious kind of level. Now, the apex here of our discussion, another person asked, what does narcissistic collapse look like? So I wanted to go ahead and give these other two as a prelude, but then we go to this whole notion of narcissistic collapse. They've got this phony front that they present to you and to whoever happens to be in front of them, but over time, they can't keep it up. Cracks begin to emerge. You begin to find out some things that are not very flattering, or they reveal certain things through their behaviors and attitudes, and they absolutely fall apart. Now, you've heard terms like they fell apart, or they went berserk, or they came unraveled. That's what we're talking about when we talk about narcissistic collapse. And by the way, if they ever do come to counseling, it's when that happens. I've had so many folks that have been their own worst enemy, and they were doing their very best to try to keep up that facade, but then they just crumbled. For example, there may be a domestic violence episode, or there may be an extramarital affair where they just were completely out of their league, and they were totally different from what they tried to portray. They may have lost a job because they got caught embezzling, or who knows what. But the possibilities are endless. And when narcissists go into narcissistic collapse, sometimes there's this agonizing, woe is me. But it's even when that actually there can be a good aspect of that, because you need to struggle with yourself. But in their case, it's like, how do I get people to care about me now that they found out some things that they think are not good? But it's very much, I've got to keep my supply going, and it's not happening. And so it's not really a self-adjusting kind of an attitude. It's, I've lost my manipulative powers, and it bothers me. More often than not, though, the narcissistic collapse comes out through anger and a vengeful kind of a mindset. They start going into battle with whoever has exposed them. or whoever might be onto them, and they can be very aggressive. Sometimes they become very passive aggressive. Sometimes they'll offer physical assaults, or they may try to turn people against you because they're afraid that if you expose truth and it's true, well, that's not going to work. But if they can taint your reputation to other individuals before all of this comes out, then if you do say something about it, they can then say, well, you know how crazy that person is. That's part of their narcissistic collapse. They begin to unravel, and all of their trouble begins to rise from to the surface. You've heard us talk about how narcissists are defined by their own internal chaos and their confusion, and that's all their gaslighting. They try to keep you confused because it keeps them from having to admit how jumbled up their whole life is. So it's fascinating when you observe a person who is into this false self with all the phoniness that's there and the posturing and the pretending. And then once they're found out and once it comes out in the open, they come apart at the seams, typically through their anger and through their attacks towards other individuals. You know, like the dog that's injured, they start biting. That's part of their narcissistic collapse. We go back to that first question. Well, they could pretend the whole time that they were a lot better person. Why don't they just go ahead and embrace it? And the narcissist basically comes back to the notion that says, I'm too into me. I don't want to embrace us. I don't want to embrace responsibility. I don't want to embrace humility. It's still all about me. Even as they're falling apart, it's still all about me. And my response is, go figure. And that's why I say to you with Team Healthy, it's so necessary for you to have your self-examination and your insight and your discernment for the purpose of making the healthy adjustments. And then you can say to as many people as you want, please join me, and some will. The narcissist is like, get out of here. You're not my type. I don't like you. And I don't mean this too sarcastically, but consider it a compliment and keep moving on. If you're not going to fit into their world of phoniness and collapse, that actually is a good thing. Now, I hope that questions and comments and responses like this are something that stimulate you. If you haven't already hit that subscribe button, please do so. We'll have more videos coming in your direction. I consider it an honor when you allow me to be on your path with you. And so if you do have questions, like I mentioned at the beginning, go ahead and put them in the comment section, and who knows, it might happen. Now, you know that I'm an enormous proponent of psychotherapy. Obviously, I spent my entire career dedicated to that, and I'm retired now. If you have a need, though, we have a sponsor that can help you out. It's an online therapy resource with BetterHelp.com. They have licensed professional therapists that are waiting for you. All you have to do is answer a few questions, and then you can choose the therapist that would be able to help you sift this out. If the need is there, please go through that and get the help that would be warranted. Now, in addition, I would invite you to go to my website. I put a lot of work into that. It's got a whole lot of information on that. Now, you'll see a tab on there that says courses. I have online classes, and each one of them has at least 25 teaching videos with guided questions and handouts. We have one on anger called Anger Games and how to manage that correctly. This is me about establishing your boundaries, free to be, finding yourself despite their efforts to try to control you. And then we have another one called Ready, Set, Connect about having healthy connections. Each one in their own way has its therapeutic goal in store for you. In addition, I have my 90-minute webinars that are PowerPoint presentations that I've given, along with articles and my books, so we have a lot of resources. Narcissists want to put up the facade, and they want to say, hey, I'm a pretty decent person, only for you to find out later on it was just a phony game. And then once they realize you're onto them, here comes the collapse, and it tends to be very ugly and very destructive. And that's when you realize, okay, they can't go back and reconstruct it. They'll try maybe, but ultimately they're committed to their pathology. That's a sad thing for me to say, but know that. And then as you do, then I'm hoping you can say, well, I'm going to be committed to Team Healthy, and I'm going to move forward with steadiness. And I hope that in the process, you're going to be able to find peace despite their inability to join you. I hope that you can actually get to your place of peace.